So Fortify is used by druids, necros and barbs and can be spread by barb shouts onto other classes. And Fortify acts as an extra layer over your health, but is not bonus health. That's really important. So you can have 5000 life, for example, and you can have 500 Fortify, which doesn't mean that you have 5500 total life. It just means that you have 5k life total and 500 fortified life. But I will go into the math a little bit later during the video. The life that is below your fortified health takes 10% less damage. So you could say it's basically stronger life. So therefore we are going to have different fortify states and you can see them here on the screen right now. In the top left is your normal health globe and in the top right you have a health globe where the fortified life is almost equal to your normal life. And in the bottom there you have a health globe where your fortified life is greater than your current life. Therefore you get the big border around the health globe. Getting closer to endgame, it's going to become easier and easier to maintain being fortified. You can still benefit from Fortified's 10% less damage taken on your fortified life, but only for the portion of the hit that would drop you below your fortified value. So let's say you have 5000 health, for example, and 2500 of that is being fortified. Now, if you would take 3000 damage, this is where the math comes into play. After you've taken the hit, you would have 0 Fortify remaining and you would have 2050 life remaining because there is technically 2 instances of taking the damage. In the first step, you are getting your health reduced by the 2500k damage that are going right into your unfortified life, and in the second step the 500 remaining damage are going to be impacted by the 10% less damage taken from your life being fortified. So in the first step, 5k health minus 2.5k damage would equal 2.5k health left. You would also have 2.5k fortify, which then reduces the remaining 500 damage taken by 10%, which is going to equal to 2050 life remaining. This sounds really complicated in the first place, and you would say, wait, 10% damage reduction isn't really that great, so why am I even bothering? But later on in the game, you can actually increase the 10% value by passives, gems, and Paragon points. So there are most likely going to be diminishing returns affecting those damage reduction numbers, so keep an eye out for that. So ideally we want to use multiple sources that generate Fortify, such as skills or passives, because Fortify depletes very fast as soon as you leave combat. So another example would be when you have 5k health, you also have 5k Fortify and you are being damaged for 3000. What's really important here is that whenever health and Fortify are at the same value, you are going to end up at the same value for health and Fortify after you have taken the damage. So 5k health, 5k Fortify. You're taking 3000 damage here. You can just instantly calculate 10% of the 3000, which is going to be 300, which is going to be subtracted from the 3000 damage you take. So you would take 2.7k damage, which would leave you at 3300 Fortify remaining and 3300 life remaining. Next up, Overpower. And Overpower is a very special mechanic which is probably going to be extremely late game oriented because of the things that we will get into now. So Overpower has a 3% flat chance to proc on every hit and cannot be modified. And overpowered attacks deal damage based on the sum of your current life and your current fortified life. So you would say 3% is really not enough to be actually building overpower builds, but there are some skills that have a guaranteed overpower chance whenever certain conditions are met, and you can easily distinguish your overpower hits because they are going to be teal and your critical overpower hits are going to be orange. And because overpower is taking your normal life and your fortified life into consideration when you're dealing damage, it is going to scale especially well into the late game. Especially Druid is going to have a really good synergy with overpower because werebear builds are going to be utilizing overpower and their built-in increased life and increased fortified generation to deal huge damage. And also their main stat willpower is increasing overpower damage. So next up, vulnerable, and that is going to be way easier than what we have discussed before this. And you can already see this by the first note here. take or deal 20% more damage. And yes, that's correct. You can also be affected by vulnerable. When enemies are vulnerable, their life bar is going to become purple. And whenever you are vulnerable, you will have a cracked health globe, and your vulnerable damage that you deal can be additively increased by the affix enemies take more vulnerable damage, which can be found on items and in the Paragon board. And all these values are going to be added together and then multiplied with your damage. Next up is the lucky hit chance. And if you are familiar with proc chances on other games, lucky hit chance is basically the same. And that lucky hit chance can be manipulated by legendaries or passives. So let's look at the math here. Let's say there is a skill and it's called Giga Hammer. And that Giga Hammer has a 100% lucky hit chance. Now let's also say you're a barbarian and you're investing 1 skill point into pressure point. And pressure point makes your core skills have up to a 10% chance to make enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds. Now your Giga Hammer doesn't have a 100% lucky hit chance in total. It is going to be multiplied with your lucky hit chance of the effect that you're applying. So in this example, it would be pressure point. You're taking your 100% lucky hit chance of the Giga Hammer, multiplying that by the 10% chance of pressure point. In math, it looks like this, and that's done pretty fast. It's going to mean that you have a 10% overall chance per Giga Hammer cast to make the enemy vulnerable for 2 seconds. Another math example here would be Mega Hammer. Let's say Mega Hammer has a 50% lucky hit chance and you're also applying pressure point again. So now this time the math is going to be a little bit different. You're going to take Mega Hammer's 50% lucky hit chance to multiply it by the 10% chance of pressure point. The math is going to look like this, and therefore you are going to have a 5% chance to make the enemy vulnerable for 2 seconds. Now you can have a lucky hit chance on your items as well. Rings and gloves have something like this, for example. This would actually change the equation like this. Let's say you are still casting your Mega Hammer and you are still applying pressure point. Now you have a ring with 10% lucky hit chance and you have gloves with 5% lucky hit chance. But be careful here, the ring and the gloves are not applying any effects. They're just increasing our lucky hit chance. So as we said in the beginning, we are multiplying everything here, and that would look like this. We would multiply the 50% lucky hit chance of Mega Hammer with the 10% chance of pressure point, and then we would multiply that outcome with the sum of your 10% ring lucky hit chance with the glove 5% lucky hit chance, which equals a 5.75% chance to make the enemy vulnerable for 2 seconds. Now next up, Stagger. There's going to be a Stagger bar below the world bosses, like Ashava for example. And whenever that Stagger bar is going to be filled, you are going to apply a stun to the boss. And it's also going to trigger a special effect. In Ashava's case, it's going to destroy one of her wings, and therefore is going to remove her big AoE ability. Now if you would be able to repeat this one more time, you would remove the other wing of Ashava and make her very trivial because she wouldn't be doing her AoE attack anymore. Now if you want to pass the time until the official Diablo 4 launch, I suggest you watch this video next, and I'll see you next time.